I just want to thank State Rep Duran. Thank you for coming in and just sharing when you can and giving us updates. And
An informed population is a good population.
Right.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, I'm sure you've been busy.
Always. You can be as busy as you want to be, and I think I want to be a little bit busier than I need to be. So,
Well, that's a good thing.
yes.
We were talking off mic about NEAS.
Yeah, their school just had a organized walkout about gun violence. It was a nationwide effort that one of their students jumped on board with, and it's part of what makes America great is if they feel the need that that's what they want to do, they can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I was saying it's just we're the opposite. Not saying that we don't have gun issues, but we have a lot of individuals, men, women, teens. I'm sure there's some grandmas and grandpas out there that hunt or they shoot clays, right? They're very responsible gun owners. It's hard because we don't have to preach to them. They know.
Yeah. It's a tough subject, just only because of the fact that you're bringing emotions into this. Now, after the Annunciation school shooting, that brought up a whole bunch of emotions and feelings and everything about firearms and what we should do with firearms. We need to be cautious when we're intertwining emotions with logic when it comes to this stuff. A lot of the firearm, I guess, crimes that occur within the United States is really done with a pistol. It's done with a handgun. It's not done with a rifle.
Right.
Actually, rifles are such a small portion of, I guess, the criminal element that people need to know this. And the reasons why we get so tangled up on this is because we bring in our emotions in, and our children are getting, hurt, and we want to make sure. And I'm with everybody on that. I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see, children get hurt any more than anybody else. But we got to be logical when we think about things like this. And we got to make sure that we as the state of Minnesota are pushing through logical and not emotional laws. And when we're talking about, banning assault weapons or quote unquote assault weapons, it's difficult. We need to think with a clear head here. I own one. I like to shoot it. I am very, very safe with mine. My children's own firearms. We get them they obviously don't own it, but they use firearms. They shoot. We're very responsible gun owners. I think it's a part of just raising your children and making sure that we're being safe with our firearms.
Well, you teach your kids that there are consequences if you drink. You teach your kids that they need to drive safely because you can kill someone.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of... And if someone stabs someone and they die, should we outlaw knives? No.
Yep.
Right. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
There's a side that is they'll talk about their Second Amendment rights, and I have the right to bear arms. And then there's a side that talks about safety and wanting to, believes that, the guns are the problem. Year after year after decade, that's been the discussion, right, from both sides. And it's going to take someone like you to say, hey, let's just sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's not bring about, our justifying our emotions. How can we together fix this and come up with a solution that is common sense, and it's not just ban this because the bad guys, as you know, being in law enforcement,
They're going to get them anyway.
They're still going to have them.
Absolutely. And people bring up that common sense gun reform. Like, what is that? What is common sense? What's common sense to you? What's common sense to you? What's the difference? Yeah, everybody's going to have a different opinion on what common sense is, because that's their emotional base, right? That's where we get a lot of our feelings, and that feels good to me, so that must be common sense to me.
Campaign statement is what that is.
So it's just making people feel good about that, so it's quite different to everybody. So I've asked this a lot of times, and I've been responding to a lot of emails in regards to gun control and firearm laws and what we should or shouldn't do. And I always ask everybody, what is common sense gun reform to you? What does that look like to you? Because it's going to be different for everybody. And how do we get the consensus of our community, our state? Well, to be honest with you, I'm a strong Second Amendment individual. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I'm not going to infringe on anybody's rights to bear arms, and I'm not going to push any legislation down in St. Paul that is going to have that. But I'm willing to have a conversation and willing to actually address some of the concerns with school safety and, you know, some keeping the firearms out of the individuals that are, you know, having mental health issues. But the problem is we already have laws like that. We have a red flag law in the state of Minnesota right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
We already have a law that the Democrats put in place that says that if you're having a mental health issue, a mental health breakdown, that we're allowed to be able to take your firearms. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's
that's a huge thing, and people don't realize that. And the more laws we put on, or the laws that only law-abiding citizens are going to follow. Someone with a mental health issue is not going to follow the laws at this point in time. But they always bring up the defense of, well, there's the access to firearms is so easy now. Well, damn it, it should be. You know, it should be.
Well, I think this, but if you could really have this, I don't know if it was in the old sci-fi movie where there's scanners, right? If you were just walking down the street, walk by a scanner, and it said, "This guy's got a gun," and then you should be able to, "Hey, you have a gun? Can I see your credentials, your paperwork?" "Oh, you don't have them?" Well, then you get in trouble because it's
sci-fi movies are you watching?
Right? Is there a way to scan them? And can they have some type of devices that? I mean, I'm sure that guns and ammunition put off certain that could be triggered or noticed by certain technology. We have a lot of technology.
You know, you're kind of jumping into a separate issue with the Fourth Amendment. You know, and you know.
Well, somebody's going to have a compromise somewhere.
Yep. Well,
because people are dying.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want guns inside your businesses, you can actually request that. And then if you have someone with a firearm inside your business, you can ask them to leave.
Well, that's illegal.
Yeah.
But
so
if you don't know, right? The whole
Well,
it's
the person with a permit to carry isn't the problem.
No, it's not.
That's what I'm talking about. Those people are, if they were stopped on the side of the road, hey, the scanner over there said you had a gun. Oh, you have a concealed. Oh, here's paperwork. Have a great day.
Well, but El, how can we get to the point in any government that the gun didn't kill that person? Another person did.
Yeah. I always bring up this example all the time is I can place a firearm on my kitchen counter and my kids and everything else, or everybody else that walks into my house is not going to touch that. That firearm is going to stay there. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to go off automatically. It's going to sit right there. Okay. But it takes that action to be able to have that, I guess, firearm discharge its round, right? It takes someone to actually pick that firearm up and do something with it for it to actually do something. And people need to understand that issue right there. It's the actually intent behind the firearm is what we need to get through to people. But it's going to be that emotional attachment to the issues that are going around in our community. It's like, well, you know, what happened in Minneapolis right before the Annunciation shooting? There was a mass shooting that happened just before that, you know, where a lot of people got shot, but no one has an outcry about that. You know, there was no big push for gun control after that because it just seemed like commonplace in Minneapolis, which is terrible, which is a terrible thing to have. But in order for us to actually change the mindset of the general public in regards to this, is we have to find that I guess emotional attachment that's keeping them on the we need to ban guns and where that is coming from, and actually have those conversations with them and have good constructive conversations. We can't be battling back and forth about firearms. It's going to get us nowhere. So if me and you disagree on firearms, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you and banter back and forth because we're not getting anywhere.
Right.
But as long as we have a good constructive conversation, we actually both are learning from each other in the way that we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the bigger issues here, is that we're not doing that anymore. We're not taking this constructive conversation stance and actually learning from each other anymore, and understanding why I'm a big Second Amendment guy and why you may not be. And then maybe we can work to understand each other and see why this is such a big issue. We don't do that, and it automatically feels like once we're emotionally attached to a topic, we're done. It's over and done with. Like, there is no getting me off that. Instead of having these conversations, like I'm up to having conversations with anybody about firearms, but you also are going to hear my stance on that, and why I strongly believe in the Second Amendment, and why I strongly believe that it's not the firearm that are actually hurting people, it's the people that are actually hurting people. We can have a good conversation about that stuff, but it's getting through that emotional attachment to what our beliefs are, to be able to actually have these constructive conversations, I believe.
Whole lot of, well, heck, Sheriff was just here last week.
Mm-hmm.
Asked him about where he was in his sheriff's law enforcement career when the Red Lake shooting happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, yeah, I was like the second person there.
Mm-hmm.
The school shooting most recently brought back a lot of memories from Red Lake. How can the state, help Red Lake, help Annunciation, help everybody that needs it?
It's going to be different everywhere, and to be honest with you, we never know when these individuals are going to pop up and want to hurt people, right? But then again, we also
somebody had a red flag somewhere
there, and that's the point,
mm-hmm.
right there. Not the general public are going to know, but the people close around these individuals are going to know. They're going to see an issue there. They're going to have that change in that person where they can see that difference, and that's where that red flag law comes into play. I mean, I don't agree with it, but since we have it in place, let's put it in. Let's put it in play.
It's a law, let's use it.
Yeah. Let's
one of the
use
tools
it in a
you
good,
have.
Yep, absolutely. So, how can they help? I guess every other school, and I would say, what made your school accessible to that individual to want to come in there and create that much carnage? What can we learn from that? And I'm a strong supporter, and we can't stop everything from happening, but we can sure as heck try to hinder their ability to hurt as many people as possible, right? So I can't stop. If I wanted to, create mass chaos tomorrow with a handgun, you can. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it, and we have a lot of handguns in our area. We have a lot of rifles in our area, and I say northern Minnesota is probably one of the most dangerous areas that you can be in, because everybody's a hunter. Everybody can hit you from 200 to 300 yards out.
True.
Think about that. If
they can't hit the deer though.
So, I appreciate living in northern Minnesota, and I love being in northern Minnesota, and I love our area here, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But there are things that we can do to strengthen our school security and strengthen some of the weaker points in our community. Which I mean by that is, I believe that we need to make hard targets instead of soft targets. It's funny that we have security and armed security at events and everything else, but we don't necessarily have it at our school. But then they're like, well, why? Well, because we need that type of security at our schools, because bad people do bad things.
Yep.
And you just never know when they're going to happen. I would like to be more preventative than reactive on a lot of this stuff. So let's be proactive instead of reactive on school safety. And those are some of the things that I believe the Republican Party is going to be pushing really hard, and that I'm going to very support a lot, is making sure that we give all the resources to our schools and to our private schools, charter schools, anybody around here, to make sure that they've got
as
a
many
safe
people are
environment.
safe as can be.
Absolutely. Those are big things that we need to do.
Perfect.
So,
well, but thanks for coming in and sharing, and I'm sure you'll be back.
all right, I appreciate that. Thanks, guys.